Weekend activities, baby. We're going to talk about that and a few other things here on the Sooner or Later Sports Show. Thank y'all for pulling up. We appreciate it. I'm your host, Jay. Thanks for coming here on the YouTube channel and listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. While you're here, please wipe your feet, like, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You don't think you deserve it? Go ahead and give us 5 anyway. And gift it. As y'all know, y'all see me traveling. We've got the whole cavalry in here. We got me, we got Coop, we got PG. We got a few topics we're going to dive into, like the weekend activities. We've got Party at the Palace as well as the Sooners Under the Stars. We're also going to talk about fall camp starting. I know y'all excited because I darn sure is. So, gentlemen, happy Sunday. What's going on, Coop? What's going on, PG?
What is cracking lacking? Man, struggle bus. Little summer sinus infection happening. So if I hit mute and sneeze and blow my nose, I apologize. It's not transferable via the internet.
That's hardcore disgusting, my man. We definitely did not need to hear all that information, but I totally am glad to see that you are feeling better. It's always a plus, right? PG, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to go see Deadpool 3 again because the movie was just so good. I'm going to have to go see it a second time. Hot take. I think it's one of the top 5 Marvel movies that is non-Avengers and the whole thing.
I will give it I will totally give it a top 5 finish as well. I went and saw it on Saturday. And as y'all can see, I'm once again in a hotel room because I'm traveling for work. So I'll be here on the road. I do plan on having some videos drop while I'm here. So I just got a couple things I want to talk about too. But let's go off top. The simple thing, right? We had Sooners Under the Stars. We had the Party at the Palace, Champion Barbecue, whatever. It appears that we had some visitors. So PG, I'm gonna let you lead the way here, since you and Coop are the recruiting guys. That has become the market that you have basically cornered in talking to people. PG, what does it look like as far as visitors? Who jumped out to you that pulled up?
Yeah, so obviously the 5 stars I think were going to be everybody's biggest points to hit, and James Carrington didn't make it, but it was for a really good reason. Hard to get plane tickets nowadays since the crowd strike decided to let the whole world down. But Brandon Arrington made it in. Seems like things went really well. Jaden O'Neal doing his thing there. One of the things that sticked out to me, though, was Jordan Deck. This was a 4-star safety out of Lone Star High School, which, if that sounds familiar, same high school as Ryder Mix. Really got a chance to talk to him and deep dive into how that went. He got the offer from Brandon Hall, and it sounds like he has a really good relationship there. It sounded like the dude almost might have committed. We got a interview coming out tomorrow on that one. You'll hear him kind of talk about that. But that's one that at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say I think a lot of people are going to start predicting him to be a part of Oklahoma's class. But to look at the recruits that pulled up this weekend, whether it was trench players, which I felt like they were really heavy on. Felix Ojo was back up here again, and I think better tackle prospects in this class. And then you got a guy like Maxwell Robinson, who right now you really only got KU, K-State, and Arkansas pushing for him. But that's a guy that through his junior season, I think he's going to get a little bit more looks from some of the bigger schools, and he's probably going to be a guy that rises into the top 150. So I look at it across the board: Toa Katoa, Noah Best. Everybody saw the predictions flowing from Aljor Miles, and I would be pretty safe to say that those predictions are probably going to be correct. Oklahoma Sooners Under the Stars, I think, is going to probably end up being the new big event during this time, while Party at the Palace kind of takes a back seat because I think the staff wants to try to have their class committed about this time of the year, which makes the Party at the Palace less exciting because you're not going to have a ton of non-committed recruits show up. But I think it was a really good weekend for Oklahoma, and there were a lot of really good prospects.
It's an interesting concept because I was thinking about that in a similar way as well. I know that this year, the class basically got filled up by Party at the Palace, which is not normal. Typically, we finish most of our recruiting by the end of August, but a majority of the class usually hits her by August. This is the weekend where you get the final big pieces. And like this time, there wasn't a lot of dudes that really came through. But I get what you're saying, that the hopes is to have most of the class completed by now so you can focus on the next year. But the other thing that jumped out to me too, when you really think about it, is this class is kind of an anomaly to me for 25. because a lot of these kids went ahead to get their spots because we didn't know what the NCAA ruling was going to be, right? We didn't know what changes were coming down the line as far as if the class was going to max out at 25 or if they're going to keep that unlimited. Well, now that it's unlimited, that seems to be what changed things. And now going into next year, which that's going to be a conversation we'll do on the back end, we got to talk about how the NCAA settlement with the House and how that 105 scholarships are going to kick in. So that's interesting. Coop, man, you heard PG, heard the list. What do you think? You think Oklahoma's going to be able to get the class completed by this time, I guess, next year?
Yeah, you're going to continue to see this. And this is a class where, as great as, I mean, we all love Kevin Sperry, but he's not a guy that took on a lot of national hype like O'Neal is going to. And so when you've got a quarterback in there, and also, we talked about Jonathan Hatton. He's PG was talking about how he's already getting after folks and trying to recruit too. So you're going to see this be a year to where 26 is going to be pretty quick also, and you're going to be able to go out after some really really elite guys. The more that O'Neal hits the circuit, the better he does. It's just going to be, more and more and faster and faster. And so now this year with the, going to 105, I do wonder what's that going to look like. Also, I think that we're in year 3 of the NIL being just wide open. And so now I'm starting to wonder what happens with that. Like what happens with certain schools. You saw Miami play a huge, huge part last year and the year before in NIL, and now not so much because people need proof of concept. They need that to actually start happening where you spend a bunch of money and it turns into wins. And there really hasn't been a school that has done that to this point.
No, that's a fair point. And spending a whole bunch of money hasn't led to championships. We do know that so far. And that's going to be the one thing that most of these kids are going to want to see. So we'll see what that looks like. So
speaking of NIL, is Oregon broke? Because I thought they were unloading the bag, and they're losing guys.
Yeah, the one thing that you learn quickly about some players is that, yeah, money sounds great, but money isn't everything, right? Like, you can outbid everybody, but at the same time, sometimes kids look at that and be like, I can take a little bit less and go where I actually want to be or where I want to be coached. So it's kind of an interesting concept, right? But, Kevin, you asked an interesting question. Okoye left. I'm not sure where you saw that. Don't believe everything you see on the interwebs, right? Unless you're good to a reputable source, I'd ignore it. And as Coop mentioned in the chat, he talked to Danny a day or two ago. So did PG. Yeah. Make sure you always check that source.
And I'll say this, as far as the Oregon thing is, you've got a lot of kids who are going to come commit. And then if you start tossing around bags and you're bringing in, guys, that attention, that focus, all of that stuff, that's going to turn some kids off, and they're going to bounce out. Isaiah Mosey is not that type of situation. If you don't know, his pops is heading up to Nebraska. So we all kind of, when that happened, we figured that was going to be, right around the corner. But just that's why you got to be careful with the NIL, because if you've got kids on campus, we talked about it with, Ryan Foje. If you go out and just absolutely bag out a couple other 5-star tackles, this guy came in early, gave you his commitment early, and you got to be careful with those types of things because that's a lot of internal conversations, and you also reset the market for your own class.
Yeah, no, exactly. So you got to be careful what promises that you're throwing out there or whatnot. PG?
Now, before we move off, though, of Sooners Under the Stars, I do want to say this. I do think you're going to see a shift in OU's recruiting strategy over the next couple of years because they're 3 years in now with full recruiting cycles. I guess 4 if you count 2022. They're really starting to build relationships in the Texas area and have the Texas pipeline. Emmett Jones has helped a ton with that. So I think you're going to see Oklahoma, especially now like you've seen in the 25 class where they have 90% of their class committed, 95% of their class committed. guys like Brandon Hall, Jay Valai, Todd Bates, they're going to be able to go out and spend a lot more time with these 26 and 27s, be a little bit more intentional there, while other guys like Kirby Smart and them, they're playing catch up and trying to finish up their 25 class. And so they're going to get a head start. They're going to get to do what they did best at Clemson, and they're going to get to do it here, which means you're going to see those classes continue to fill up a little bit faster, and you're going to see Oklahoma start to win some elite dudes.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering what the landscape's going to look like when this 105 actually comes down the line. I've been reading a lot of the settlement over the weekend and prepping myself to make a video on it and really break it down. But what I'm seeing out of it, just kind of Cliff's notes now, is it's going to be 105, and that's going to be it. I was like, that's the roster limit, but you don't have to go up to 105 if you don't want to. Problem is that really eliminates your walk-ons, right? Like the roster limit is going to be a hard cap limit of number. And so then at that point, because right now we typically carry 120, and most schools carry 120 because there's so many kids, right? Bringing in extra walk-ons is a great way for additional scout players, and to be able to do additional concepts and stuff in practice. But that's going to start getting minimized. And once that hits, the good thing for the players is that instead of stopping at 85, you get an additional 20 scholarships to give out, which you can make them partials if you want to, or you can go fulls, whatever the school decides to do. But the negative is that you don't get as many additional walk-ons. So you lose out on 15 walk-ons, which, if you want me to be honest, I don't think that's going to make that big of a difference. I think it'll balance itself out. And so we'll break down that a little bit more in detail. But as you said, PG, you said it as well, Coop, I'm curious to see if this leads to classes getting filled earlier. I honestly don't see that. I still feel like, especially once you start getting into some of your elite players, the players that everybody talks about they want, those top-tier 5-star or very high 4-star top 100 players, I don't know if a lot of them is going to be willing to go ahead and commit early when they don't have to. Now, if you if you get lucky enough and you get those dudes that are ready to go ahead and lock it down, different story. That I don't count them. I'm talking about your quote-unquote potential diva type recruits, more so your trench guys, the ones that everybody wants, the ones that are the hardest to come across or come by, that's actually good and can stick. I'm wondering if they're still going to continue the status quo of, keeping their recruitment open up until about their high school or up until National Signing Day, which we'll see, right? We'll see what that looks like.
I think it depends on position. I think you'll see maybe skill players like safeties, wide receivers, cornerbacks. You might see them wrap commitments up a little earlier because you can go out and get a really good 4-star safety that might be comparable to a 5-star safety. But an offensive tackle or a defensive lineman, that's a little bit harder to do. Those guys are going to be a lot more of a commodity, and people are going to still want to pay for that. So I think you'll probably see those drag out, but quarterbacks, wide receivers, cornerbacks, safeties, I think you'll see all of those probably drag or close up a little bit quicker than continue to drag out longer.
Yeah, I think that quarterback is the one. Like, quarterback to me doesn't count. I think quarterback's the one that's going to commit early because they like to recruit and build their class. Right, Coop. They want to help build their class because these are the dudes they're going to play with, right? They even want to recruit the class ahead of them, like we see with Jaden O'Neal. He wants to recruit for 25 because if he comes in and he is that dude that is advertised, there's a good chance he's going to be fighting for early time. And if he fights for early time, the veterans on this team is going to be 24s and 25s, right? Yeah. So he's going to want to have a relationship with the dudes that he potentially has a chance to play with. So I get that with quarterback. I think the diva positions, your skills guys, there's a whole bunch of them. So to me, when it comes to 5-star, 4-star, skills guys are a little different, right? Just about all of them. You got 3-stars running 4.4s and being 6'2", right? Your problem is your question on them is typically football IQ, their ability to adapt in certain situations and their ability to hit, or their ability to camp, right? You see that with skills guys more than anything. It's really the trenches, the only thing that I'm wondering about. How much longer is that going to actually drag on?
I think they drag on just as long as they have because they get money. Yeah, they get. And I mean, the perfect example is this: Kobe Sellers. I made a prediction for him to end up Oklahoma, and I tell people I wasn't wrong on that. The dude just waited too long to commit. That's what we're on to. Look at Fasusi. Fasusi has that time to wait.
Yeah.
Normally, this would be a wrapped-up offensive line class for Oklahoma, but they'll wait on Fasusi. They weren't waiting on Kobe Sellers. So it's just like I
Fair
think
point.
things like that, you're going to see those kind of guys maybe think to themselves, if I really want to be at this school, maybe I don't need to play around, take all these other visits. Maybe I need to just go ahead and lock in my spot because that's where I want to be.
No, that's a fair point. That's a
And
fair point.
Jay, another one that is a faux pas name to throw out is Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams. The reason why he is a different scenario is because that guy's probably a bona fide first round MLB player, and it's not the same situation as Kyler Murray a few years ago where he was a quarterback. So I mean, I'm just going with the thought process that that guy, he can pick and choose because he's elite enough from a potential standpoint at safety, that he's gonna stick around. But as soon as Cowboys just posted in here, he's also a cat that, like, if he shows up on campus, like, you look for a way to make it happen because that's a big opportunity. I personally think that he maxes out at 1 year in college football, though.
Yeah, and
What makes you think we haven't waited for Jonah Williams?
and that's one thing to say is I don't think we stopped waiting on Jonah. I think with Jonah, the question is when is he going to be ready to go ahead and commit, right? I
What will
don't
you have
believe that
on the
we.
table?
Right, right. I don't think that we said that, oh, no, we don't want you, Jonah. No, I think that Jonah knows that Oklahoma is 100% willing to take him if he's ready to go. So I don't know. He's that talented. So, and just as Coop mentioned, very good chance he's going to end up on the baseball mound, man. If he's throwing 94 right now, right? He can probably add an additional 2 miles per hour over the next year of his strength and his technique going.
Very much.
If next summer comes around, he gets drafted within the first round. The thing that sucks for anybody that takes him in their class is he's going to make more career money up front playing baseball than he would even playing football, right? Football ain't paying him a lot at linebacker or safety in comparison to what he would be as a pitcher in baseball, or even a power hitter. So, yeah, he's probably going to I think he's going baseball, if anything, because he's just that
Probably go
talented.
to
He's
LSU at
that
that
good.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he just see the thing about it is if he goes to baseball in college, he's stuck for 3 years. So the decision is: do you want the money, baseball? Go ahead and work your way through minors and majors and take your millions, or do you want to play college baseball and sports for 3 years? Because you're at that point you're forced to,
And
right?
briefly talking about baseball for a second, because we talked about the scholarship limits. Did you guys see how many scholarships baseball got?
Yeah, they got a lot more.
Football. Yeah,
Yeah, they both got
they
a lot more.
20. That's huge. That's huge for the baseball programs.
That's very, very big.
Yeah, it's
I,
massive.
I promise you, the numbers being thrown around now versus when I was coming out is it's silly. Like there was a guy who I played with up in Kansas that this guy should have gone several different places, and his scholarship was $7,500. So I mean, it's those numbers. Those numbers weren't very big for a long time, and so it's much better to get that because as great as a free 5,000 was, that's not something that's really cool to brag about.
Yeah, that's gonna
Fair
help.
point.
It's gonna. I saw those numbers. I saw them for basketball too. I think they women's and men's are up to 15. I'm like, this is gonna help all sports across the board. Like, I think Oklahoma has an opportunity just outside of football to take a step up in every single sport.
No, I agree. And I mean, it's going to level some playing field. And then, of course, you'll have the revenue share at that point when all this stuff goes into play. So this is going to place probably 25 or 26. Just depends on when they finish everything. I think some stuff's going to end up in litigation. We'll talk about that on the other side. So thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. Please, while you're here, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version, rate, review, give us 5 stars. So, speaking of which, we've had a few people ask this in the chat. So, PG, I'm going to ask you first. Who do you think's the next person to commit?
26 or 25.
Commit.
Or do you want one each? Okay, I'll give you one each. I think Fasusi is our next 25. And I would say 26 guys. I think there's several that could pop off. I think I got to go with Aljor Miles next, but I think it could be Noah Best too. I think Noah Best might be, and that's an offensive tackle, guys. That he's on the rise. He's a good junior season. He's probably gonna be a 4-star kid.
Ooh, nice. Cool. Who do you think's next?
Well, since PG just said 17 different names for his next two, I was going
Right.
to go best. Yeah, I mean, it's Fasusi and Best. I like Miles a lot too. Miles' speed is the only thing that I kind of question. But again, that's something that you're not going to take a 4.6 guy and turn him into a 4.4 guy in college, but you can knock off, point 0.4, point 0.5 with some good technique and good training. He's a big strider. He reminds me of, CeeDee Lamb when he's running, just full on sprint, just because he kind of just glides. And so, but yeah, that's who I'm thinking is Fasusi for 25, and I think Christian Jones not too far behind.
I talked to Christian Jones the other day, and I asked him because I heard some rumblings about maybe his timeline getting moved up. He told me it's still end of the season. So that tells me, although Nebraska has not been the team that everybody's watching for, like everybody kind of thought, oh, he's going to leave Nebraska. I think he's going to watch and see what Nebraska does this season. And I think, if Nebraska loses a couple games early, he probably shuts it down early. If Nebraska sits at 7-0, which they should start the season 7-0, he's probably dragging this thing out till the end of the season to see how both Oklahoma and Nebraska performs.
Fair point. I think the next one as well. I'm on the Fasusi train. I still feel like we have a very good chance of pulling him in. If I go 25, 26, I don't know. I haven't done a very good job of digging into 26s because, again,
Hey,
I
Aljor
don't think
Miles,
20,
you can't. You
26 is a real. I gotta go watch Aldro Miles. In which I actually plan on watching Aldro Miles tonight. Like after we talk, I'm gonna watch some of his film, get some of his measurables to understand him better. Since I've seen that there's a very good shot at him, mainly because I need to pay attention to some. It's time to start looking at 26s. Unfortunately, 26 still ain't a year for me. It's never a year for me until National Signing Day passes, right? Unless you're quarterback. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'll go look. I promise. I'm gonna pay attention. But that's why y'all two exist because y'all are really good at keeping up with that.
He has a 36.9 vert. He's 6'2". Like, he's got the size. Listen, Emmett Jones knows what he's doing. Emmett Jones.
Oh no,
knows what
I ain't questioning. There's nothing for me to question when it comes to what the man, the myth, the legend, Emmett Jones is doing. My thing is, again, I just, it ain't a real year for me because I'm still waiting for guys to sign on the line, which is dotted for 25. Once that happens, then cool. But there's another one though. Christian Jones. Everybody's asking this question. It's been a lot of questions. PG, you post something in the Discord about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Christian Jones still leads. I think, like I said, it depends on how both teams perform throughout this season. I guess Sooner Cowboys is asking a question. OU linebacker recruiting has been questionable, I think is how he's wording that. I wouldn't say it's been questionable. Their linebacker room is 180 times different than what it was with the old regime. And the thing is, it's so deep, you haven't really needed to take multiple linebackers. Now, if you're asking this question because BV has not landed a 5-star linebacker yet, we really haven't landed a whole lot of 5-stars outside of Peyton Bowen, David Stone, and PJ Adebayor, which, I mean, David Stone was an in-state guy, so maybe that one was a little bit more expected. And then the first cycle that we had, well, I think Oklahoma just hit it out of the park on that one. I think you're still probably a couple of years away before you see a 5-star linebacker end up in Oklahoma's class, just because I think they need to see proof of concept with Zach Alley, and Ted Roof didn't do it good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, I would say on the linebacker class, that's tough. I mean, it is really tough with the depth that they have currently, just because you look at a guy like Kanik, and he's a guy who might get, he might be fourth on the bus as far as playing linebacker, and then you also go into what Brent Venables and Zach Alley are going to want to do this year with your hybrid guys like Simeon Masigo and Deshaun McCullough. And so
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people in that room right now, and that's tough. Now, I would say that This next year is probably going to be pretty big, so we need to probably see more. But we got James in the fold already. You're going after Christian Jones, and so I don't think it's going to be too bad. But you also, I promise you this: Danny is going to be up in the Butt Kiss Award, category. Kip Lewis is going to get all of his flowers. I think Comey McKenzie's changed his body, and so there's going to be some highlights going on this year in that linebacker room.
No, I agree. And with Stutzman coming back, Jimmy, you make a good point here. We only brought in one linebacker last class, and we got two, right? If we get Christian Jones, Marcus James is also a linebacker. I mean, he's 6'3", 220, nice size. So I anticipate him being. I anticipate him playing linebacker as well, right? So, and he'll probably be a big deal at that point. So that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to how the class is going to shape out. Want Christian. It'd be nice. But when you look at the room and how full it is, like, who do we lose this season? We'll lose Stutzman, right? But that's it. Ain't nobody else gone.
Hey, Jay, I don't know if you saw this. PG's wife's water broke, so everybody say a prayer for him and the family. They might be having a baby right now, so that's why PG.
Yeah, PG bounce.
Not like me when I got to bounce because my kids are going crazy.
PG jumped out because a water just broke. So, hey, we will be keeping them in our thoughts as we're hoping. He had his baby before the season starts. That's huge. Right? Like, shout out to him. We're going to be praying for the health of the mommy and the stress level of the pappy. So, back.
just for I pray that PG's got a kid that's just like him, and this is my attempt at a good transition. Did you watch the Coaches Clinic stuff and look at Zach Alley and how he talks and mannerisms and everything just like Brent Venables? If you haven't seen that yet, bro, you can turn the video off and you don't know who's talking. Zach Alley looks like him. He when he's talking, he sounds like him when he's talking. It is one of the most it kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, so I didn't see it for the Coaches Clinic recently, but when I was at the camps, at the Brent Venables camp with the kids, I was talking to James Jackson from 247. Me and him were chit-chatting, and we were talking. And then I heard, somebody addressing the crowd, right? And I'm just like, oh, okay, PV over here addressing the crowd. And I turn and looking like, wait, that's Venables right there. He ain't saying anything. And I look up, I'm like, wow. Yeah. I'm like, James, y'all wasn't lying. He really does sound. He's like, yeah, he really is like a clone, a younger clone. It's kind of scary. I was like, really should be laws against that. Literally.
He looks like he looks like he should be doing Marvel Cinematic Universe like YouTube videos, but he sounds exactly like Brent Venables. So it was kind of funny.
Yeah, and he does look like a camp counselor with that dang stash, man. It cracks me up. I love it. I actually hope it's funny because the shirt that I had made for In Alley We Trust has the stash on it. It's from his Jacksonville State seasons and his red shirt. It was hilarious. Still seeing the stash there now, seeing him grow it again. It's comedy. So somebody in here made mention of the funny, I guess the comment about Sark Neo, that was fake. Yeah, it was 100% fake. Yeah, and as our boy Truth points out, there's only reason why one dude who was outlawed it made a video on it for some reason. Yeah, some fake. It got clicks, so I guess he got the views he needed. But no, I vetted that immediately. The minute I saw it, I'm looking like, oh, this is fake. This is no way this is real. And then, of course, we figured out it was fake. I know people had fun with it, but 100% fake.
Yeah, and just Sooner fans in here, everybody was talking about, oh, look, he's back on the sauce because of the divorce and stuff like that. Let's be better than that, guys. Listen, I'm not your dad and I'm not your big brother or anything like that. I'm not, but it just looks bad because, obviously somebody was taking a shot at that. And, I've been through a divorce and I've dealt with alcoholism and those two things are no joke. So, I'll just say this is, I hope Sark the best through all that, man. That's a tough thing to deal with because, it's going to be in the back of his mind. But that was 100% fake. No head coach is going to pop off like that. And that is a death sentence for yourself. And so it doesn't matter what you're going through. Like, nobody would post something like that. Don't press send, like Herm Edwards said.
Exactly. One of my favorite ones. I had that video saved and pinned in my personal Bird app account is literally that. Don't press send. But somebody mentioned frightening. You're 100% right. We know that's definitely not. It makes no sense to even do that, right? And him going through his divorce, it sucks. I just hope that he does a bad coaching job against us. The rest of the season, I don't really care. I actually hope that we're both able to embarrass the SEC. That will be a whole bunch of fun. Shout out to the homie Furry up in here. Hope we embarrass Alabama as well, because it'll be a great feeling for us to be able to do that to them. But no, Thunder OU, yeah. So that 247, those predictions were back in March.
Yeah.
The latest one was in April by Jordan from Horns 247, but they're starting to say that they are concerned, right? So I don't know. Nobody knows here what it is, and honestly, that's the funny thing is Texas don't know, but Texas is saying they're a little nervous about it. They feel like it's distant. Every other school saying all kinds of stuff. Nobody really knows. He's done a very, very, very good job keeping it quiet. But I know he shut things down.
He shut it down for absolutely everybody. When I've talked to, and again, these guys will watch these videos or not, but I've talked to Josh McQuiston at Sooner Scoop, good deal about it. I know PG's talked to Colin Kennedy at 247 and talked to Parker, and there's a lot of silence, and the reason why is because this is a taxing thing for somebody because Fasusi it's not NIL. And I think that he knows that he is going to do a great job wherever he goes. And he has a very, very short length of time between committing to a school and being a first-round draft pick. And so, that his head is in the right space. Wherever that guy goes to, if there's anybody that says he's overrated, this guy is a stud. And he is. But that being said, I'm very, very confident that he ends up at OU.
I think that we can win this out just because of the great relationship we built. Jimmy, you're 100% correct. Zach Alley is a very sneaky good pickup. Let me say it this way. I'm trying to find the good words of how I can put this to where, those that aren't fans and understand us is this. My bullishness with a lot of the stuff that we've got going on is less about, honestly, talent, more about the coaching and just how perfectly aligned our coaching went. Follow me on this. We're bringing our offensive coordinator, who was an analyst before, right? He came in as an analyst after losing his head coaching job. Have him as an analyst. And the best part is, as our new offensive coordinator, he worked as a co-offensive coordinator with our current offensive line coach back in the day. So they know each other well. Plus, he was on the national championship team. So with Luttrell, he knows Oklahoma because he was a natty winner. He was an offensive coordinator at Arizona with Bill Beatonbow together. So they have a tight-knit relationship on understanding concepts of offensive line to go along with how he wants the quarterback to play, tight end usage, all of that stuff is ingrained, right? Emmett Jones has a picture of himself coming to an OU game when he was a youngin', and he talked about how he was excited about this job, and he said if he got an opportunity with this job, he was taking it immediately. But that's neither here nor there when it comes to him. But that's why on offense. Defense, the perfect lineup is you bring in a young and upcoming defensive coordinator who worked for you for 8 years, who uses your entire concepts, who uses the same stuff that you do, but he does a very good job of translating it for the young guys. Even better, right? Because everybody talks about the complexity of Venables' defense. Allie has simplified it for some of these dudes where they're like, okay, I can pick up a little bit faster with the way you're saying it in comparison to the way BV does it, because BV's still old school, right? He's still, early 2000s mindset, even less Clemson, more 2000s mindset, bringing toughness back. That's why I'm super, super, super bullish when it comes to how people think that those changes are going to alter us. I don't see it. But that's exciting to me, right? It's just those two concepts of Latrell working with Beaton Bow for so long, and now they're back together. And then Zach Alley being undefendables for so long, and he's back now doing it here. So, yeah, I get why people will be nervous about it, why you would have questions. It's the only reason why I'm bullish. If those things didn't line up perfectly like that, I'd have pause. I had pause when we first got, BV here. I was like, got to see how things work out. It's going to take time. We got to see what the players look like. But bringing Schmitty back and everything, chef's kiss.
Yeah, and it's we're gonna see, and I don't know if Bowers is still in here, but we're gonna see some good stuff coming out here in the next couple days with weight gains. And I hear that G Baby made it up to the 300 mark. And so, that you're going to see some of the weight gains and the summer strength improvements, and those things are going to that's going to be fun to see. And then again, we have an absolute young and inexperienced offensive line, not as far as working together. But those guys, what did they said it in the core, Jay, that it's going to be like a 6'4", 325 average across the offensive line. So this offensive line they are cooking, and they are great weight, and I'm pretty excited to see some of the gains from the summer.
Agreed. And so Sooner Cowboys pointed this out. Did you see Josh Pate has Texas versus Ole Miss for the SEC championship? I did see that, and I get his logic, right? It's the schedule setup. That's basically what he's doing all of that off of. And I'm going to be honest, I can't refute him until the games are played. I see where his logic is. He's not blowing, crazy smoke. I put it this way. This is why I got to kind of give. Pate picked Oklahoma State and Texas to go to the Big 12 championship last year, right? I think he foresaw the refs doing what the refs do best and how they do everybody. Can't be mad at him for that at all, right? He pointed that out. Even after some L's, he pointed it out. And that is an interesting one because when you look at Ole Miss's schedule, there's games that could ruin that. But it is a lot more favorable than most. I think they have a more favorable one, I think, even than Missouri, right? And Missouri, their schedule is borderline cupcake. Right?
Is.
Like, it should be like the easiest one, but what Ole Miss has, I mean, now this is where I think things get interesting. That Kentucky game to me is going to be interesting because Kentucky is linebacker. That linebacker room is really good. Secondary, but I think it's solid enough. Just their overall defense is solid. They may give Ole Miss some problems. So that's the game I'm going to watch. 28. 28 is going to tell me everything I need to know about what Ole Miss is. If they can get through that game, get through LSU on the road after traveling to South Carolina, and then Georgia at the crib, because I think that's what Pate has. He thinks that Georgia loses to Ole Miss at home. That's going to be interesting.
And that's the one that's the only part where I'm like, all right, listen, dude, I can't really agree with you on that one because I think Ole Miss is going to have trouble running the ball, and I think that's going to be it's going to be a challenge for them. And if Kirby Smart can't beat you as a one-dimensional team, then we're looking at a different type of team than we've seen the past couple of years. That being said, I think that Georgia is going to have some issues this year because eventually this culture stuff starts catching up to you. Eventually, some stuff, and it's just no matter what you say. I mean, what are we up to 28 since that fatal car accident? We're up to 28 different instances of someone being arrested, and I don't care if listen. If your argument is, well, the police target a lot of, the Athens police target a lot of football players. Listen, if you don't want to get wet, don't jump in the swimming pool. Eventually, you got to just quit doing the same things and expecting different results.
Oh, 100%. That I 100% agree with. They keep putting themselves in these situations, right? I just saw a tweet today about one player was practicing how to fly and They said, absolutely not. Don't Georgia, do not let them touch planes. Like, yeah, that's what Pate basically was saying, even one of his tweets pointing out that, casuals will say that Georgia's culture is rotten, but then trash people for not picking him to go into the SEC championship. It's like his whole point was nobody cares about culture, right? In their selections, people don't care about culture. They don't think that really matters. And to me, I think culture does matter. I don't think culture kills them this year, but I do think culture kills them next year once Carson Beck is gone. I think once Beck is gone, because I think Beck's a pretty solid leader. He may not be the best quarterback in the country, but I think he is a solid leader. And you've seen it in some of the games in the play of calming things down and running things right. We'll see what that looks like for them. But I don't know if this is the year that Georgia goes down the bowl. Now, again, Ole Miss and running the ball, there's questions. Even Georgia's got questions, but them picking up Trevor Etienne, we got to see if Trevor Etienne can go out there and be like Travis. Yeah. That's what I'm wondering about. I wonder if he's going to be able to do what Georgia needs as a bell cow running back. They also got is it Brandon Robinson? See the other running back they still got. So,
please, listen.
We'll see.
It's like I said, there is every single one of these teams in the SEC this year has something that they are going to be battling. And I'm not talking about other SEC teams. There is a lot. Right. So our buddy Furry Murray down here, again, we've done SEC Connect. We've done shows with Ty, shows with Bama guys. None of these guys are saying OU's going to walk in and throw out a 500 year. So I mean, if you've got some basis of your comments and stuff, let's hear it. But outside of that, man,
he doesn't.
This is a Sooner team that was put together with an overhaul on purpose, the way it was supposed to do. And a lot of SEC, the common SEC fan, if you ask them, they think OU went 5-5 last year, and couldn't make a bowl game or something weird like that. So we know, and I think that is Gabe or Teddy said it, a couple weeks ago. You guys know who we are. You guys know what the tradition is. You guys know what we have, and you don't let Dylan Gabriel, just take a walk because Jackson Arnold is something that could be good.
Yep. DG knew. DG was comfortable with understanding that, probably I make more money going to Oregon than I would going pro, right? And he took advantage of it, and he's going to be really good in Oregon, right? And it's funny you talk about him, like I forgot who I think it was. Yeah, Klatt was talking about him. Klatt was talking about DG going to Oregon. He said he thinks he is going to be a Heisman candidate there in comparison to Oklahoma, mainly because he thinks Oregon's going to use him different in the way that Levy's offense was said. He likes to stretch the field with those speedy and big wide receivers. But that's not DG's strongest game, right? DG does a better job getting the ball over the middle into guys' hands and letting them work in space, and that's not what Levy's strength was in his offense.
Yeah.
Lanning's offense, that's how he pushes for that. He wants them to get the ball to guys in space quickly, like a point guard, hit them on that cut, boom, let them just go play in space, similar to what Bo Nix did last season. And because of that, I anticipate 100% that DG's going to have an elite season next year. And that's the one thing I hope that Sooner fans understand when it comes to him doing that. It ain't got nothing to do with the current regime here at Oklahoma on how DG does better at Oregon. It's from the last OC and the way that he used him. He's going to get used a lot better at Oregon for his strengths, hence why Levy is somewhere else, and we've got an offensive coordinator that's going to leverage the quarterback's strengths more so than what he wants to happen in there. I mean, Levy's system, just like Lane Kiffin's, was all about ratios. And, just like, Josh Heupel with that veer and shoot, air raid mix that they have going on. Yeah. You want to make sure that your quarterback can hit those deep passes, in which we saw Jackson Arnold do that against, Arizona. When he hit Brennan Thompson on that deep pass, like, oh, okay, this is what we're going to do. And he overthrew. Was it Nick that he overthrew? I think it was Nick. Huh?
Yeah, I thought it was Brennan. I thought it was Brennan that he.
It might have been Brennan. It was one of the two.
It was one of the first. It was one of the first deep balls that he threw. But it's The one thing I'll say for DG is I think that Oregon has a pretty simple schedule, and so
Yeah.
it's one that's going to be set up. And listen, if you're a Sooner fan, there's no shade in DG going out and winning a Heisman. Again, the guy's been in college football since its inception at this point. So, but he's a great
Here you
kid,
go.
and he takes care of his family. He takes care of people back from home, and I promise you, anything that can help him reach and take care of more people, I'm okay with that. Now, I hope if we play and we put him in the ground, but that's
Of course. Yeah, my bad on that. I'm in a hotel. I'm using hotel Wi-Fi, so life happens. But thank y'all for pulling up. Hit that like button. New to the channel, subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version and it breaks up on you, my bad. Rate, review, give us 5 stars. Y'all know how it is. We out here trying to make it happen,
that
especially
Motel
even.
Six, that
Wow.
Motel 6 internets.
Yeah, it don't like you, boy. Right about now. Hey man, you leave me alone. Why you gotta dog me, man? Why y'all always picking on me on the weekend, man? But
Uh,
all right, what questions y'all got in here in the chat? I saw some trolling from Furry Murray. My bad, dog. You gonna just get ignored by me. You know how I am. You can keep talking about how you think everybody's gonna be just so bad when it comes to going to the SEC, as if SEC schools ain't lost to these teams before. We'll see what it looks like. We ain't playing Georgia and we ain't playing Alabama every week. We ain't playing Nick Saban's Alabama every week. We only got one that we got to see this season, so we'll see what it looks like on that. But yeah, truth. I would love to see DG in the playoffs, man. That would be lit, right? If we walk through the SEC and make it to the playoffs, man, it's gonna piss off a lot of people. And I'm gonna be honest, man, it's a very good chance that can happen. Like, we gotta remember, most of the coaching staffs here, literally, is Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin. That's really it as far as people that's been there for. And Mark Stoops, and Stoops counts, right? Stoops has been there the longest, but Stoops, you've got, like I said, Kirby, who's done some things. This is actually the year for Kentucky to actually win 10 games. Like, this is their season. So if they sneak and if they lose, they can lose to Georgia. They can lose to probably Tennessee and probably Texas, and still finish the season at 9-3 in conference, and then win a bowl game and win 10 games. There's a good chance that can happen. So, good question here. Jen, love the question. Thank you for asking. Caleb Hicks, will he get some time on the field this year? I actually think he does rotate in this year. I know that he was a big sleeper last season. Spring game, actually. Spring practices, there was a lot of raving reviews on him. So I say here in the fall, we'll probably hear a lot more about him rotating around with Barnes as well as in Sawchuk. I'm kind of curious to where Sam Franklin falls in the line, right? I think Megwa still's got another year of physicalness, getting himself going. So we'll see what that looks like. Coop, what you think?
Tatum is coming. That's all I've heard is Tatum is coming. So I think that Sawchuk is your odds-on number one starter. It's starting to hear, again, I'm a prove it person. So, but I'm hearing that Javonte is starting to look pretty good again. But I think that right now, if that's not the case, then I think that your 1-2 to start the year are probably going to be Sawchuk and then Hicks. With Barnes coming in to try to let's see what he has to offer, because Hicks has done the job, and I still think that you kind of got to earn it back when it comes to DeMarco Murray. So, but Sam Franklin may be falling. He may be one of those guys that's actually going to be used sparingly. But yeah, I mean, and Keaton, we all love Tawi. But I think that this room's in a spot now with the health and the dynamic playmakers that Tawi knew what was happening.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to Franklin, it's kind of fascinating because he comes in here rushing for 1,300 yards at UT Martin, which is not a small feat to run the ball like that. Put it this way. I've always looked at any running back or actually any player that comes up from G5 or even D2 or anything like that, or FCS, I think of them as like a JUCO player, right? They showed out where they were at. They can come here and they can still show out if they're put in the right system. He has the speed, he has the power, he has the production. So he having all three of those, I don't think that he's going to be bad. What's fascinating to me is it's been quiet on the front when it comes to talking about him. I know Sawchuk's number one, and that's basically what's been confirmed about him is this is Sawchuk's job. And Barnes is looking healthy, but I do think that, speaking back on Hicks, I think we see a lot more Caleb Hicks this season. It feels like we'll see him. And um, if Tatum is him, you may see him on the field too, but I don't know. But thanks for that. Any what other questions y'all got in here? Actually, there was one in here that I thought was interesting too about Georgia versus, there you go, Georgia CE. Thanks for the question. Can Clemson beat Georgia in game one? I'll put it this way. If Clemson wins that game, that is when Georgia starts unraveling.
Well, yeah. I mean,
That's my thought.
I'm not going to say that you're wrong because that's where it happens. It's because again, I believe that there's a lot of culture issues right there. And I mean, I don't know who posted it. Somebody posted about, sometimes you want, it's worth having some bad boys on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, those types of collections never go down in glory. They go down gloriously. And so, but if you ask me to, bet $1 today, I would say I don't think that Georgia loses that game. But I do think that if Georgia were to have a loss, because I think the Kentucky game it is one the week before Alabama. I think that's a tough spot for them. Going to Texas, listen, Texas did play Alabama 2 years in a row like they were the best team in college football. Now, Texas's issue has always been doing it every week, which kind of the same thing that we've had to deal with. So I don't think that Georgia rolling out to Texas, if Texas is on a roll and Georgia's been flimsy, then, that's, I mean, Georgia's also almost lost to Missouri, 2 years in a row too. And so,
Right.
Georgia has, they've lost a lot of skill position. Brock Bowers, he was one of the better receiving tight ends, and he saved their ass quite often. So we'll see what happens there. But I mean, I just don't see that Clemson game just because I don't believe that Clemson is there.
Yeah.
And I think Jason just posted right there is I've got to see something, some life signs out of their offense because the last time that they had really, really good life in their offense was, Trevor Lawrence's second to last year.
No, that's a fair point. Now, Klubnik is year 2 in a Garrett Riley offense, which is very easy to run. I mean, we saw what Max Duggins did in that offense. So I do think that Clemson offensively will be better. I mean, who's in their backfield? I think that's probably the biggest question is who's in Clemson's backfield. Uh, that's who I need to go dig and see what they're looking like there. Wide receiver room, there's a good chance you see some Wesco as well as TJ Moore, which, two freshman wide receivers that are really good. Their wide receiver room is pretty young as well, but Klubnik's going to have to show it now.
That's a lot to ask for freshman wide receivers. I don't care if they were number 1 5-star in the class or a really good prospect at 4-star. I mean, asking a freshman to ball out and carry your team, that's very, very few and far between.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And that's a good question, Stephen. Is it Garrett's system or is the Dabo system ran by Garrett? I hope that he may do a Saban type setup where it's the team offense and that guy's calling it and just adding wrinkles into it. But to me, that's not smart to limit your offense that way, especially with what Garrett Riley's capable of doing. You kind of want him to take over and overhaul that. You're at the point. I mean, Saban was smart enough to let Lane come in there and overhaul his offense, right? He let him come in and change a lot of the things that they were doing, and then they started to see a whole bunch of QB production at that point. I mean, mainly it was just running backs and just running down people's throat, muscling everybody. But when everybody started to do the exact same thing, yeah, you can't try to muscle everybody and everybody's muscling back with you. Hence why Georgia was able to come up, And LSU, when they had that massive season, they were able to come up. Tennessee, they had that massive season. They were able to start to come up. You can't let that happen to you too much. You gotta adapt. And he's done some good. He's done very good at adapting. But if this is the case, thank you, Jason, for confirming that. Yeah, he needs to let Gary Riley run things. That's going to be the problem.
Jay and Jason, I know that you agree with me on this one, but this is the year to where if Dabo continues to be resistant to all the stuff that he's resistant to, I promise you this is Garrett Riley doesn't want that inferior, offensive scheme being put on his name. And so he's going to be pushback. So if you see some struggling offense and Garrett Riley all of a sudden, grows some stones and starts talking about, being handcuffed or anything like that, he's basically trying to tell the college football world, the coaching staffs that, listen, you guys know what I can do, and I'm not being allowed to do it right here. And that
Right.
will be some inner turmoil because Clemson right now is another mediocre season away from being what they were, when he took over.
No, I agree with you there. Keaton sounds good on the those Polish sausages. That's a dope one. I see with this one. I'm curious how well Brian Kelly has his team ready for week one. I can look. Brian Kelly can coach. I don't really like him. Most people don't. He can coach. We've seen it, right? Like I said, 9 wins in the SEC in his first 2 seasons as regular season wins, and then 10 total overall for the season. He can coach. No question about that. He's also really good about understanding when he needs to adapt and change things. I mean, that's how Marcus Freeman ended up as his DC
Yeah.
up there at Notre Dame. He made the adjustment quick. He recognized that, look, I need to go ahead and do this. Boom. And the defense looked good. He leaves, take the job, at LSU. His defensive coordinator was not up to snuff for 2 years. What'd he do? Out. What'd he go do? Go snatch one of the hottest names out there right now and go get Baker from Missouri, Go show how Missouri is, quote unquote, potters. So, yeah. I mean, that's the problem, T, and that's kind of my point. He went and got Jay. People were clowning the Jaden Daniels transfer pickup. I'm
Very
like,
much.
and they go back
Very
and look it up. Go back and look it up. People were looking at him like, what are you doing? He was terrible at Arizona State. Why would you go get him? He's not even good. People were dogging that. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think he's going to be great, but I think he'll be a solid. And see, Coop even admits he was one. I thought he'd be a solid pickup just to run his offense to keep them afloat. I did not see 9 wins in the season by him. Then the dude went out there and won the Heisman. Look, that tells you everything you need to know about understanding what your personnel looks like. Plus, he had 2, great wide receivers to go with that. So they got a lot of stuff to change. My point is that defense was not LSU traditional defense. And he saw that. That's what got Les Miles fired, outside of all the other crap that he was doing. But what got him on the radar getting fired is that his boy Cam Cameron stayed on the payroll. And everybody's like, nah, you got to get rid of him. You got to change things. Y'all looking awful. Awful. You got to change that. What did he do? He changed it.
And I will say, like, we've been talking about Brian Hartline and Emmett Jones as far as the wide receiver, coaches, but it just seems like rinse, wash, repeat down in LSU that they absolutely always have another crop because Neighbors is showing out in NFL NFL preseason camp. So it's going to be LSU is going to have a defensive issue this year. And
they will.
We are going to have a little bit of a transition period because as great as, it takes some culture changes there. And then Nussmeier, what is he going to end up as? But I think with the question at the beginning was he going to have that team ready? Last year, they sure as hell didn't look ready game 1. This year, I don't know if we learn anything. If they go out and trounce USC Is that mean USC is what we kind of thought that they were? Or if they go out and lose to USC, does that mean, like, what do we learn from that? Because, I remember it was a 2-year span where Alabama started off with Virginia Tech one year and Wisconsin another year. And I think that they won combined like 84-0 in those 2 games. And
Yeah.
Nick Saban just was straight up like, I know who we are. We don't need to prove anything. This is what we're going to go do. And so that's different from this situation because what's USC going to look like this year? Like, what are they going to be? And Lincoln Riley's scared to death of LSU. And now you got to go out there and show out game one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Again, I don't know if we're going to learn much after that game. Now, if it looks like a complete one-sided domination, one side or the other, then yeah, maybe we do know something.
No, it's true. Now, I know that when it comes to, Ferry Murray asked the silly question here. Brian Kelly coaches LSU, where we know they have the bodies to make it happen, but OU is going to beat them the first year. Yeah, I think we can beat them this year. LSU still has a lot of questions. I didn't say that they were just going to win every game. The question was, are they going to be ready week one? I think they'll be ready for that USC game, right? Because the thing about it, going into that USC game, both of them have the same questions. You got Miller Moss at USC, who's their new starting quarterback. Everybody's got questions about what he's going to look like for a full season. Even though he's a top 100 recruit, we'll see what he looks like. Same thing with Garrett Nussmeier. We got to see what he's going to look like. We still have questions with that. It's going to take Baker about a year to me get that defense up to snuff, because especially that defensive line, when Dominic McKinley's ready, oh boy, that's going to be a good one. I think Dominic McKinley will take over that defensive line next season. This season, it's going to be a lot of learning, and honestly, they're going to make a bowl game. Put it that way, they'll make a bowl game. I don't know if they get double-digit wins this season, but I know if they make a bowl game, they could probably go 9-3. I don't see 9-3, 8-4 is probably in their agenda. So that's definitely something that I would not go against staying in that one. Another question here: Alabama versus Wisconsin. That one is going to be fun. And make this the last one before we bounce up out of here. Coop, man, look, Tyree. Wisconsin's going to actually be kind of interesting next season, right? Like, they're going to be an interesting one. How you feel about that game, especially because it's on the road? They're going to be challenging to me.
It's well, like the game I just referenced from a few years back. You thought, well, Wisconsin's going there and they're going to run a smash mouth. Like, I don't know. We still have the questions about Alabama. You're doing an absolute coaching shift. So to answer an obnoxious question from earlier is, Washington was always a decent team. And with Penix and with Kalen DeBoer, they had 3 top flight wide receivers, an average defense that just made things happen. But let's not think that like that Washington team was, they did not win the national championship game. They got somewhat embarrassed, and it wasn't close in that game. And that was a very, very, very weak field. Alabama was not ready. I don't think Jalen Milroe was ready. This year, I think Jalen Milroe is going to be an absolute stud, but we still have a full-on everything change on offense. And then now also, what happens so this is a situation where like when the kids are with dad, they're uptight. They're on their best behavior. Mom's a little bit more loving, more nurturing, so they act a little bit more crazy. So I'm just thinking is with Nick Saban disappearing, he's not the head coach anymore. You don't have to fear Nick Saban anymore. And so what does the Saban effect have with that? There is a massive scheme change. And, these guys are going to want to go out and show out for Kalen DeBoer. I do not doubt that at all. But to say that, like, it is just going to, like, taking one guy out and putting another guy in because he went to the playoff one time, like, I just don't see a complete transition in that. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what, that Wisconsin's not, scheduled to be a great team this year. So Alabama should go out and absolutely just put it down on them. I don't think you're going to see that 35-0 slacking like we did a couple years ago, though.
No, 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 not at all. I think what's interesting in this game too is that Wisconsin's upgraded their offensive line heavily, and so it's a very much a unit that's gotten a lot better. I don't know how TVD is going to do, but he's old, right? He may come out there like Sam Hartman and do just enough. But I love the pickup of getting Tyree Walker, which could be their bell cow, and he could run, which is good. But they're going to have one of the best defenses in the Big Ten. The Big Ten does produce defenses.
Yeah.
Bringing back 8 starters like they did, yeah. Like I can see this defense giving people problems in the Big Ten, and hence why they will give problems to they'll give problems to Alabama on the road, right? You're going to be in Wisconsin playing in that game. That one is going to be, whoo, that's going to be tough for DeBoer on that one. Just the first trip out there. I mean, it's going to be a quote unquote tune-up game, but yeah, if there's anything, man, I see that that's going to be the one game that there'll be some questions for Bama as they prepare themselves to take the week off to go play against Georgia, which that's an early off week. That's just fascinating. They have such an early off week in preparation for Georgia coming to town. That Wisconsin game's going to be fun. So, yeah. All right.
The last one. Let's make this one the last one. It was the permanent rivalries. I don't think that you can't force this.
I think he's more so asking the 3 games that they're going to make as your permanent opponents next whenever the SEC goes to 9 teams.
Yeah,
9 games.
I would love to play Arkansas, but I mean, to be honest with you, Arkansas's got some work to do before I'd want to see that game on a every year situation. I think that I would like to see Tennessee to be a built-in rivalry. And Jay, I know that you and I, kind of held affinity for Tennessee. So, I'd like to see maybe that game. Missouri ain't it. Like, Missouri's not. I mean, they're not a rivalry. This is not a team that we even cared about. When they were in the Big 12, they had 1 or 2 years with Brad Smith and Chase Daniels that they actually had a pulse. And when it all came down, they couldn't step up. They didn't win a single Big 12 championship. So let's look around because do you bring in basketball and baseball into it also? Because it's the OU's baseball team is pointing in the right direction right now, and the basketball team is, bless your heart, we got a ways to go on that side. So I don't know, Jay, who would your 3 be?
Ooh, man, if I got my 3, of course, Texas. I think. Well, if anything, you want to, of course, regionalize it, right? Regionalize it makes it a lot better, and it's probably what they're going to try to do is keep close teams to each other, right? So for Texas, it'd probably be Arkansas, Texas, A&M, and Oklahoma, right? That would be their 3. Makes the most sense, right? Unless Texas A&M runs away and leaves the conference. For me, I would like it to be probably Texas, Arkansas, and I would want to extend it out across, go to like Florida, maybe Tennessee would be fun. I think Tennessee would be awesome to have. That could replace the old Orange team that we were rivals with, right? That would be a fun one to do every year, but going between Neyland and Gaylord Memorial. Or if you don't pick,
we already recruit really, really well in Florida, so that might be one that that you can have some speaking points to.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. Like you would want to ask to be able to recruit there in Florida on a regular. Give each team kind of one maybe cross country travel to make it fun. That makes the most sense to me, right? Nobody else really in conference. LSU maybe that would make sense. Missouri doesn't make sense. We don't need to have we don't need to rekindle the Big 12 thingy because Missouri's desperate for somebody to want to be their rival, and everybody ignores them.
No,
so give me Texas, give me LSU, give me Tennessee, or give me Arkansas. Bring Arkansas back. I like that idea. Oklahoma, give me Arkansas, Texas, and either between LSU or Tennessee. I think one of those 2 would be fun, easy to travel to type games.
Yeah, and those are based off of. I mean, there's speaking points to them. Like Georgia's not going to be an opportunity to be that because you would have to fabricate a whole story. Alabama, that's not going to be an issue. The same reason why Alabama and Georgia haven't made their annual game or anything like that. So, man, Missouri, we may get Missouri just because. I mean, if I was going to build it, I would say that you need to lump Missouri, Kentucky, and South Carolina together, just because those are kind of your mid teams.
Yeah. I like the Arkansas one just because it's right next to each other, bordering states. Fayetteville is very close to Tulsa. I mean, it's about an hour and a half drive, hour 45-minute drive. So just the convenience of being able to go to that game on a regular basis, because that's the one thing that you got to have when it comes to like the permanent three. At least make it to where travel is easier for fans, right? You want to
Yeah.
make sure that travel is easy for them. Everybody hop on the road 3 hours and make that trip. LSU, what sucks is it's a 9 hour drive. That's a trek. Just like going to Tennessee, which is a 12 hour trek.
It's not an easy.
And it's not an easy 9 hour drive either, dog. I've made that drive 3 years now, and I'm going to make that drive here in 3 weeks. It is not an easy drive, and I'll be there. I'll probably end up having to drive for Thanksgiving because I have family in Natchez, Mississippi. We'll probably go there for Thanksgiving and then go to the LSU game because that's only an hour and a half drive from Natchez. So it ain't an easy drive. And I'm not excited about the idea of having to deal with that on a regular basis. But, Missouri's Missouri's about 6 hours, so you can just meh. Honestly, I'd rather drive down to Cal Field at College Station, even though nobody wants to go to College Station. That's
No.
no, it's awful.
I want to see A&M get stuck with Mississippi State or something like that because that just those two fan bases going after each other would be like people of Walmart. It would just absolutely just be ridiculous.
It would be. Texas and Texas A&M is going to be so much fun watching them just everybody get mad because everybody just hates A&M, right? Like we hate Texas, but man, everybody hates A&M. Dude. And they
what
bring it on
team?
themselves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, I won't get into that because I don't want to get canceled. But I mean, like, it's A&M's fan base. I just don't understand how you. I have no clue. I have no clue.
I'm lost when it comes to that. But all right, thanks y'all pulling up. Hit the like button. New to the channel, subscribe. If you are listening, rate, review, give us 5 stars and think we deserve it. Give us 5 anyway. Gift it. So with that, we will chop it up about a day or two. All right. Peace.